Hello guys and welcome back to today's video. So in today's video we are going to continue with our JavaScript course. So if you are guys enjoying this playlist, uh, kindly mention it in the comment sections, and also if you don't like something or you have any doubts, put it there only. So in today's video we are going to continue with our JavaScript. So the first topic which we are going to cover today is JavaScript objects, correct? So what are objects? So JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language, correct? So a programming language, which programming language can be called an object-oriented programming language. So there are four capabilities that it should have. So the first one is your encapsulation. So the capability to store related information, whether data or methods, together in an object. The next one is your aggregation. So the capability to store one object inside another object. Then third one is your inheritance, the capability of a class to rely upon another class for some of its properties and methods, or all of them. Then polymorphism, the capability to write one function or method that works in variety of ways. So polymorphism, what does it mean? It means various forms. So we can write same function definition multiple times but with different parameters. What does inheritance mean? Inheritance means we are getting our methods or properties from some other object, so we don't have to write again and again. Then there is your aggregation, which allows us to capability to store one object inside another object, correct? So these are the four capabilities that it should have. So JavaScript has all of them, so it's an object oriented programming language. So what are objects? So objects are composed of attributes. So if an attribute contains a function, it is considered to be method of the object, otherwise the attribute is considered a property, correct? So in JavaScript, almost everything is considered as objects. So booleans can be objects, numbers can be objects, strings can be objects, dates, math, then your regular expressions, arrays, functions, objects. So these all are your objects. So we have worked with boolean numbers and strings, right? So you can also create objects of booleans, numbers and strings. So how do we do that? So there is one wrapper class of that, wrapper object classes. We use that wrapper classes and make our primitive data types into object types. So what are JavaScript primitives? So a primitive value is a value that has no properties or methods. So let's consider any value like 10. So it's a primitive value. A primitive data type is a data type that is primitive value, correct? So JavaScript defines 7 types of primitive data types, which are your string, number, boolean, null, undefined, symbol and begin. So some of them are repeating, so mainly we can sort them into string, number and boolean, and null and undefined are your null ones, correct? So we have already worked with them. Then primitive values are immutable. So let's say there is one value 10, correct? So that value 10 is immutable, correct? You can't make a change to it. That value 10 is stored somewhere, let's say on your computer, so you can't make a change to it. So it's your primitive type. You can't change it, so it's immutable. So if it's mutable, we can change it. So if it's immutable, we cannot change it. So they are hard coded and cannot be changed. So let's say if x is equal to 3.14, you can change the value of x, that is your variable, but you can't change the value of 3.14. So you can't change what 3.14 means, correct? You can change the value of the variable, but you can't change the value itself. So that are your primitive data types. Now we'll see what are object properties. So object properties can be of any 3 primitive data types, or let's say another abstract data types, or objects also, another objects also. So object properties are usually variable that are used internally in objects method, but can also be globally visible variables that are used throughout the page. So how can you add a property to an object? So what you can say is, you can say your object's name dot your property's name and equal to your object property value, correct? So if you remember, till now what we have used one object called document. Then we were accessing the attribute of write. We were accessing the method write, correct? So document dot write. So there your document is your, so if you see over here, In JavaScript we use something like this, correct? We said document dot write, then we used to provide some data. So this is nothing, this document is your object. So this is one predefined object, and this write is your function, correct? So objects property, let's say where str is equal to document dot title. So that is how you can use that. So you can say document is your object, and it has a property of title. So it will get the title of your page, correct? So with the object there are attributes and methods, correct? Some predefined attributes and methods, and user can also define it. So what are object methods? Just like we talked, methods are the functions that let the object do something or let something be done to it. There is a small difference between a function and a method. So at a function is a standalone unit of statements, and a method is attached to an object and can be referenced by these keywords. So they can be used interchangeably. It is not necessary that you use method with objects. You can say, but it's advisable to use that when you use the word method, it is considered to be an object's method, and when you use function, it's a standalone function. So methods are useful for everything from displaying the contents of the object to screen to perform the complex mathematical operations on a group of local properties and parameters. So for example, following is a simple example to show how to use write method. So document.write, we have already used that, correct? So document is your object and write is your function name, or let's say it's a method because it's attached to a object. So there are some predefined objects in JavaScript, and user can also define it, your object. User can create new objects, correct? So if I give you an example of object in the real world, let's say your car can be an object. Any real world example you can take and it can be considered as an object, correct? So you can take car like real world, and you can create an object of car. Then you can create properties of that car object. How you can do that? So you can say car has multiple properties. So car dot, let's say, company name. You can say another property like color, what is the model of it, what is the price of it, correct? So car can be your object. Then you can say these are all your properties. And what can be the functions? So what are the functions that a car can perform? So it can it can be drive, it can go front, it can go reverse, correct? So these are your functions that can be attached to an object. So like that, user defined objects, user can create some objects into JavaScript. So all user defined objects and built-in objects are okay. So there was a technical issue. So yeah, let's move on some slides back. Yeah, so I guess we should be, let's revise this only. So what are JavaScript primitives? What are JavaScript primitives? The primitives are nothing but your value types, correct? Which are immutable. So we talked about that. So we were talking about object properties, correct? So let's move with this one more time. So what are objects? We talked about it. So let's take an example of real world and how can be it implemented into the your your programming languages. So let's say there is one car in the real world, so that car can be your object in programming language, correct? So let's say we can create an object of car, right? Then we can create some properties of it. So let's say a car has its own company, which company has made it, correct? So we can specify your car object and its property of company's name. Then we can say a property of model name, we can say of color, we can say engine, correct? So these are some properties of an object. So object properties can be of any three primitive data types or any of the abstract data types such as another object. So object properties are usually variables that are used internally in objects methods, but can also be globally visible variables that are used throughout the page, correct? So these are your object properties. So in JavaScript, how can we access object and its properties? So we create an object first, and then via using dot operator, we use this properties and we can initialize this, correct? So we have worked with one object already. So let's say this we already did, correct? Document dot right. So what we are using over here, we are using a object which is predefined into JavaScript. The document is an object, and then we are calling a method attached to it. So we'll talk about methods. So like this only, there are some properties of this object also, like title. What is the title of your document object, correct? So these are your object and its properties. So then comes object methods. So just now as we talked, object dot write. This write is your function attached, method attached to this document object, correct? So what are object methods? So methods are functions that let the object do something or let something be done to it, right? So there is a small difference between a function and a method. So at the function is a standalone unit of statements, and a method is attached to an object and can be referenced by any key by this keyword, correct? So there is not much of a difference. You can use them interchangeably, but it is not advisable. So function is standalone unit of statements, but whereas when we create a function for particular object, so then it's called a method, correct? The methods are useful for everything from displaying the contents of the object to the screen to performing complex mathematical operations on a group of local properties and parameters. So it is very useful. So for example, following is a simple example to show how to use write method. So we already did that. Let's move on. So now there are some predefined objects into JavaScript, correct? So now user can also create some new objects, right? Let's say if I want to create some object of car into my JavaScript code, so I'm able to do that. So all user defined objects are built-in objects, are descendants of the object called an parent object class. So what it is saying over here, so let's say if you create any object, so let's say your document is object, let's say you created a car object, you created a book object, correct? So this all objects are descendants of a class called object, correct? So it is predefined. We use this parent object class to create our new objects, correct? So how you can create user defined objects? So we can use the new operator. So there is one predefined keyword called new, by which you can create a new user defined object. So how you can use that? So if you observe over, let's say, ignore this for now, I went ahead. So let's say we were talking about car object, correct? So how you can create a car object in your code? So what you can say where, you can say car equal to new, and then what we just discussed, we create it from the parent object class, and we are calling the constructor method. So this will allow us to create a new object which is named car, correct? So this object class returns the value of object and it is stored into a car, correct? So now your car is created. So how you can check if it's a type of object only? So what you can say document.write, and you can say type of car, correct? So we are getting object. So with this, if you want to check the types of, let's say, primitive data types also, just like we talked about, so we discussed here that JavaScript define 7 types of primitive data types, correct? Like string, number, boolean, null, undefined symbol, and big int. So try creating some variables of number type, then boolean type, string type, and use this type of property with the variable name, or let's say object name. So it will give you outputs like this. So we are currently working with the object, so it is saying it's an object. Let me show you one more example to get clear. So let's say is equal to 1, then what you can say, document dot write type of num. We are getting a number over here, correct? This is how you can check the types of it. So try using this with strings and float values and scientific notations and all of them. So you will get the better understanding of what is primitive and what is non-primitive in JavaScript. So yeah, we did over here. We are calling the constructor method, and then we are creating a new object. Now let's take this simple example and try to understand it, correct? So what we are doing over here in the script tag, we have created a object named book, correct? So we are saying where book is equal to new, and there are constructor method, so it will create a object named book, correct? Then what we are doing, we are declaring some properties of it. So like we discussed about the car has some properties, like that only book has also some properties. So what properties can a book have? So book have subjects, correct? Then book can have author, then we can say the year of publishment, correct? So these are your properties. So let's try to create that. Correct. So over here we have created a book. We have created a property of book.name, which is this value. So in this value you can store any kind of data type. So you can store numbers, or let's say even another objects you can store into one object, correct? Then what we can say, book dot author. I don't remember the spelling. Like this only, it's very hard to pronounce. Yeah, so now we have created a book object and we have declared some properties of it, correct? Sorry. Then you can access these properties. You can say book dot name. So we are getting it. So we have declared some objects and we have declared some properties of it, correct? Now we'll work with this keyword. So what we are doing in this example, so we have declared a script tag, and in which we are declaring a function which is your book, correct? So in book function we are taking two arguments, title and author, and then what we are using this keyword. So what does this keyword do? So it refers to the current object of the function. So what does it mean? So let's say we have let me show you an example so you get a better understanding. So what we are saying over here, we have created a book a function, okay, and we are taking book name and author name, correct? And we are saying this dot name is equal to name. We are saying this dot author is equal to author, correct? Then what we are using, we are creating a new object and then we are just printing it. So let's create a new object. B1 is equal to new book. Then what we are saying, name. So provide the name here, correct? Then we are printing it, correct? We are just printing only. Yeah, we are printing only. So we are, let's just write something to. Yeah. So what we did over here, let's see. So we created a function, correct? So you know how to create a functions. We talked about it, correct? So we are using a function which is named book, correct? So in this function, we are taking two arguments, correct? Which is your formal arguments. We are taking name and author, correct? Then what we are saying, whenever an object is created, so this means the current object which we are creating. So this dot name property assign the this value name to it, correct? So if you are getting confused to it, so you can say uh, f name, f author, formal arguments, and you can assign it over here. So these are your actual properties names, is name and author, and these are your just arguments, the values which you are going to consider. So it won't affect this, it's still working, correct? What does this mean? It means the current object which we are creating. So which is the current object we are creating? B1. So it is pointing to B1 dot name property. Assign this value to it, which we are passing. The grade gets B. Correct? Then what we are saying, the next property is this dot author. So what will it mean? So it means B1 dot author is equal to your argument which you are passing, this actual argument. Correct? So this is how also you can initialize your objects using this keyword. Now we'll work with how you can define methods for objects. So we'll see an example for it. So what we are doing over here, we are going to consider the same object book only. But in this, what we are going to do, we have created a function which is called add price, correct? In which we are getting amount. Then we are saying the current object and its property price is equal to amount, correct? So in the function book which we just created, we'll add one more property which is your add price, and in which we are going to call the function itself which we have declared, add price, correct? So let's do this. Correct? Then what we are doing, we are saying the add price, we are using add price. Correct? Now when you create an object, what you can say is, you can say p1 dot add price, and you can add the price to it. Correct? So we are getting the price over here. So what we did, we declared a method for it. And how we are doing it? So we declared one more function, add price, correct? So in which we are getting the argument of price, and then we are assigning it to the object, correct? So in the book function, what we are doing, this dot add price, we are saying assign the this function. So this function will be called, correct? So as soon as this function is called, we are passing the argument as 200. So it will be assigned to this price, correct? So this is how you can declare some methods for it. Now there are some JavaScript native objects which you can use and you can explore them. So JavaScript has several built-in or native objects. So these objects are accessible anywhere in your program, and it will work the same way in any browser running in any operating system. So this is the list of JavaScript native objects that you can learn. So this is first one is your number object, your boolean, and your string objects. So these are your wrapper objects. So you can use this to convert primitive data types into object types, correct? So then there is your array object, date object, math object, regular expression object, correct? So now we'll see the array object. So the array object lets you store multiple values in the single variable. It stores a fixed size sequential collection of elements of the same type, correct? So if you learn the definition of the array, it says it's the collection of homogeneous data. So we can store similar type of data only, which is same type. So you can't store one string, one integer into it. So why do we use arrays? So let's say you don't have to create 10 integer variables now. You don't have to create 10 variables. Inside one variable, you can store 10 integer values, correct? So for that purpose, we use arrays. So what's the syntax? How you can use that? So we can say regular your variable keyword var, then your name of the array, and then you can say new array. Then in the parenthesis, you can provide the values for it. So let's try this. Variable fruits equal to new array. Correct? So this is your array type. So what we did over here, we just declared single variable, and inside which we created an array of multiple values of similar type, which is just string type over here, correct? So by just using this single variable, we can store multiple values into it, correct? Now try doing this. Document.write and check the type of that array. So it is giving us undefined right now. So when you use this new keyword, new array type, it gives us undefined uh, undefined sometimes. So it's not predictable how each time it will work. So it gives us undefined with if you use new array. So when you try to use functions of these fruits, there might be some issues. So there is one more method how you can create array. Just for the ease of reading, we can use this, but it is not advisable to use this to create some array. How you can create an array is you can just say variable, let's say veggies equal to, you can just write it in square brackets, correct? So it's doing the same thing for us, correct? And this is also doing the same thing, but using this new array gives us undefined sometimes. So it's better to use this uh, square brackets, correct? So this is how you can create an array. So we see how you can use the JavaScript array object. So when you create, uh, we missed out on one thing. Now try checking the type of this. Type of this array. So how you can say, what it is giving us, although we are creating an array, but because we are using an array object, so it's considered as an object only. Correct? So we'll discuss more about this. So what are some array properties that you can use? So the constructor, first one is your constructor, returns the reference to the array function that is created the object. Then there is your index. So the property represents the zero based index of the matching string. What does it mean? So when you created some array, let's say you have created this array, correct? So let's say you want to access this particular first item, then your second item, or let's say third or fourth, any one item you want to access. So how you can do that? You can do this with the help of something called indices. So this is your index. So in JavaScript, your index starts from 0. So the first one index is, the apple's index is 0, then this banana's index is 1, and then it's 2. Correct? So what you can say is, you can say, then you have to mention the name of your array, then in square brackets you can say 0. So this will access the particular first item, apple. We are getting it over here. Correct? So if you provide something which is not there, so let's say 0, 1 and 2, so there is no index of 3. Correct? So it is giving us undefined. Why? Because 3 is not defined in it. Dragon fruit we are getting. Correct? So these are your indexes, and this is how you can access your items in arrays. So this is one property. Then there is your input. So this property is only present in array created by regular expression matches. Then there is your length, reflects the number of elements in an array. So how you can check this? So you can say, length of your fruits fruits dot length is not working for us right now. It's not printing it. Yeah, it's printing it now. So we have stored 3 values in it, right? So we are getting the string length as a 3, the array length as a 3. So you can use this to know the elements, how many elements there are there in the array. Then there is a prototype. So prototype property allows you to add properties and methods to an object. So we have already seen how you can create an array both the ways. So first we can use your square brackets, and you can also use new array method, but don't use this new array method. Why? Because it gives us undefined sometimes, so it might lead to undefined behavior also. So how you can access array elements? So with indexes you can access array elements, correct? So now we can see how you can convert your array to a string. So let's say you want to iterate through this fruits array. So how you can do this? We have learned for loop. So what you can say, let's initialize and oh sorry, I wrote integer over here. I is equal to your 0, correct? Let's define it in here. I is less than your fruits. So let's create a string over here also. What we'll say? We'll say answer is equal to your fruits dot fruits of I plus. Let's say we don't want, let's not take this for now. We'll take this after. What you can say, answer is equal to your fruits dot to string directly to do it quickly. So it is giving us the same output. Why? Because whenever an object of an array is created, it is always created with the toString method applied, correct? So you don't have to specifically use this toString to print, but yeah, you can use this to convert your array into string and then you can print it, correct? So arrays are object. Just now we saw how you can see if arrays are object or not. So you can use the type of, then you can see. So array is a special type of object. The type of operator in JavaScript returns an object for arrays. But JavaScript arrays are the best described as arrays only. Correct. So if so, don't get confused between objects and arrays. What are objects? What are arrays? So consider this arrays only. Don't go deep into the inbuilt how they are working inside. Just consider them as arrays only. So array properties and methods. So there are some properties and methods which you can use with arrays. So first one is your length. You can use that. So adding array elements. So you can use to add an array element, you can use push function. So how you can say that? So you can say I'm sorry. You can say push and push it somewhere, and then let's remove this for now. So we have added the key view over here, correct? So to add a new element, you can use this push function. So what are associative arrays? So many programming languages support arrays with named index. So currently we are using the indexed which have numbers, correct? 0, 1, 2, 3. So what you can do is you can create named indexes and then you can assign values to it. So that these are your associative arrays. So arrays with named indexes are called associative arrays. JavaScript does not support arrays with named indexes, correct? So JavaScript doesn't support associative arrays, but to create an associative array, what you can use is you can create a new object for it. So what you can say is, if you want to create an associative array, you can say you can say correct? So this is how you can create your associative array. So what we are creating a new object only, but inside which what we can do, we can create indexes. So this is your key and value pairs. So this name is considered as your key, and this is considered as your value. Then this is your key, this is your value, correct? So this is how you can create associative arrays. So there are the JavaScript doesn't support associative arrays, so we are creating an object. So it's a workaround. You can create associative arrays. So how to recognize an array? So we already seen how you can, if you try to go over here and do one more thing. Let's say what we are saying, type of your, okay, let's use over here. And check the type of it. Where it is printing. Let's say you have created some new, well, don't consider this one. We have already seen the type of, right? So we have used the type of. So how to recognize an array? So we can use the type of operator, but when you use it with arrays, what does it return? What was it returning? It was returning your object, correct? So there is one issue over here. It will get confused when it's object or when it's array. There is one more way you can check it. So you can say array dot is array function. So you can use array dot is array, then you can provide the name of your array to check it. Let's provide it in, okay, so we are getting true over here, correct? So what it is doing, so if it's an array, it will give us true. So if it's an object, it will give us false, but if it's an array, it will give us true. So we'll get a better understanding. So you can also use fruits, your array name, and instance of array, so it will also give you the answer. Then there comes your date objects. So how you can use the date object? So what you can say, you can just create a new constant or a variable, you can name it, and you can say new date. So you can say, so we are getting the full time, correct? So this is the basic format in which you get your date, correct? So you can modify it according to you. So to create date objects, there are 9 ways how you can create a date object. So what you can say new date, you can provide for date and date string, then you can provide for year, year and month, year month and day, year month day hours, year month day hours minutes, year month day hours minutes seconds, and microseconds, milliseconds, correct? So you can also provide it just in milliseconds. Why? Because JavaScript calculates and stores time in milliseconds. So how you can use the date string? So you can just provide your date string into the uh, over here. How you can provide this date string? So you can just provide a date into a string, correct? So now we'll see the date string method. So if you want to convert your date into a string, so you can say to date string method. So it will give you a better format. to date string. Correct. So it is giving us more nice format. It is giving us the day, correct, then month, your date, and the year. So you can use this method. So now we'll start working with your graphics. So how you can work with graphics, and what are the different ways you can work with graphics. So JavaScript has a rich library for graphics. So JavaScript libraries to use all kind of graphs. So mainly there are three of them which we use. There is your plotly.js, chart.js, and Google Charts. Correct. So what is plotly.js? So plotly.js is charting library that comes with over 40 chart types, like 3D charts, statistical graphs, and SVG maps, and much more, many more. Correct. Then there is your chart.js. So chart.js comes with many built-in chart types, which is your scatter, line, bar, radar, pie, donut, polar area, bubble. Then there is your Google Charts. So from a simple line charts to complex tree maps, Google Chart provides a number of built-in chart types like scatter chart, line chart, bar. So you can use any one of them. So we'll see how you can work with them. So first of all, understand what are these libraries. So libraries are somewhat, they are already been made. Someone has written the code for it, correct? You just have to include that library into your code. So you have to call that code into your own code onto your local computer, and then you can use it, correct? So we'll work with which one is the first? Plotly.js first. So to save time, I have made it over here. So first of all, what thing you have to do? You have to call that library, correct? So we are calling this library over here. You can copy this link, just provide script and then src, correct? So this is your src that you have to provide, correct? And then what we are doing, we are going to build a regular bar chart, correct? So how you can do that? You just have to create a division in the HTML part, create a division, give an ID to it, which we are going to access in our JavaScript, and then you can style it according to you, how bigger you want, correct? So in the script part, what we have did, we have created two arrays, correct? The first one is your x-axis array, second one is your y-axis array. So in x-axis array, what we are providing the keys like Italy, France, Spain, US, correct? And in y array, we are providing the values for each and every one of them. So observe here, if there are 5 keys, we are providing 5 values for it, correct? So now the main part, we are going to create an associative array, correct? Just now we learned how you can create an associative array. So this is going to be used here. So what you can say is, you can say const data, which we are going to use, then associative array. So these are the keys that you have to provide, correct? So you have to provide same name also. So x, y, type, orientation, and marker. You can't change the name of these keys. Why? Because we are going to use it. So provide this same only. And in x, what we are providing? The x array, correct? So on the x-axis, it will consider this key values, correct? On the y array, it will consider this values, correct? Then we are saying type is bar graph. It will provide a bar chart, correct? And then there is our orientation v, so it will give us vertical, correct? Then there is your marker color. So you can use any color that you want to here. Just provide any RGBA. We learned it in CSS, correct? So you can provide any color over here. Then what we are saying, we are declaring a layout, the title, which will be on the top of the graph. We are just creating one more layout. We are saying title and the title of it. Then observe it over here. We have included this, correct? This library. So it has a object called plotly, because we are using plotly.js, correct? So it is an object, and we are using a function of it, which is your new plot. So in this function, we are going to pass some parameters. First one is your division. Where do you want to put your graph? So this is where I want to put my graph, this division. So the name ID of it is my plot. So we have provided it over here. Then we are going to provide our data, correct? How my graph should look, and then the heading of it, correct? So it will give you some bar graph like this. So it gives you options, various tools also. So this is all coming from your plotly.js. You don't have to do anything, you just have to create the values. So observe it, we gave the x-axis key values over here and y values over here, y-axis values over here, correct? This is how you can work with it. So now let's say if instead of vertical you want to create an horizontal graph, how you can do that? You just have to change the orientation over here. Just provide h over here. So h means horizontal, so it will give you the horizontal graph, correct? So like that only. There is one more which you can use. Yeah, so let's say you want to create a pie chart. So creating a pie chart is easier than creating a bar chart. So you just have to provide these values which are the same, correct? The layout is also same. In the data, what you have to provide, you just have to provide your x-axis x values, y values, and your type equal to pi. Type matters over here, you just have to provide it as pi, and then plotly.new plot, and the same parameters we are passing. Correct? So we'll get a nice pie chart over here. So yeah, so you can create various charts with it. I have just showed you the examples for it. The most common ones, the pie chart and the bar chart. You can also use scatter charts or line graphs, any one of them that you want to use. Then let's see how you can work with your chart.js. So I have an example for it also. Yeah, it's over here. So the syntax is a little bit different for chart.js because both are different libraries, correct? So first of all, you have to include the CDN, CDN your SRC, you provide it in SRC, your link to the library. Then what we have to do, we have to create a canvas for it. So we have created a canvas, we have put some style onto it, and we have given it a ID, correct? Then this values are same, correct? And then we have given the bar colors also. For bar colors, we have also given different values. So every bar will be coming in different color, correct? So now to create a new chart in your chart.js, what you have to do, you have to create a new chart. This chart is your object, or let's say constructor method. So in that, what you have to provide, first of all, you have to provide the ID of your chart. So ID of my canvas is my chart, correct? Then you have to provide some values. So we are going to create an associative one. So we are saying type is equal to bar because I want to create a bar graph. Then we have to provide data. So inside data, we are going to provide labels as x values. Why? Because we have provided the labels in the x values. Then your data set. So we are saying background color bar colors because we have provided particular color for it. And then data is equal to y values, correct? And then we are using these options. So these options are not necessary, it's optional. If you want to use, you can use them. And in that we are saying legend display false. What does this mean? We are saying don't show the legends. And then we are saying title of it, correct? If you want to use that, you can, or else it will work. So try this now. So it is giving us something like this, correct, in different colors. So let's say I want to use this in the same color only. What you can do, this remove the array from over here and just provide as a single value. It will give you all the same colors, correct? Now let's say if you want to provide a horizontal one, you can say type is your horizontal bar graph. So it will give you the horizontal graph. Then if you want to provide, let's say create a pie chart for me, just you have to change it from over here and you can say create a pie chart, correct? So if you want to show the legends, just go over here and say true. It will show the legends also now. So yeah, this is how you can work with it. So working with Google Charts is same as this too. So you can work with it. Just go onto the Google and search for the CDN and you'll get it. So this is your JavaScript graphics and how you can use them. This graphs becomes very helpful when you are creating some applications. When you want to create some admin panel or let's say admin side websites. So then graphs are very much useful for the website owner to see the statistics, correct? Now we'll see what is the JavaScript HTML DOM. So DOM is nothing but your document object model. So when a web page is loaded, the browser creates a document object model of the page. So whenever your browser is loaded, a DOM is made of your page. The HTML DOM model is constructed as a tree of objects. With the object model, JavaScript gets all the power it needs to create dynamic HTML. So it is very much helpful for creating dynamic HTML. So what is happening over here? Whenever your browser is started, a document object model tree has been created. So if you observe it in the graph, what is happening? First root element is defined, then inside that element head, your title and various tags, and in the body various tags, correct? So a tree hierarchical structure is created. So why is that necessary? So JavaScript can change all the HTML elements in the page, and it can change all HTML attributes as well. So it can change the CSS. So to JavaScript to access all this HTML, CSS, XML files, this DOM is made, and this some objects and functions are made to use them. So JavaScript can change CSS styles. So JavaScript can remove existing HTML elements and attributes, correct, to add some HTML elements and attributes to create events, correct? So the DOM defines a standard for accessing documents, correct? So to access the whole document, a standard is defined. The W3C document object model is a platform and language neutral interface that allows programs and scripts to dynamically access and update the content, structure and style of a document, correct? So this is your DOM. You can explore this DOM and various methods and objects of it. So now we'll see what are JavaScript cookies. So what are cookies first of all? So cookies are data stored in small text files onto your computer. So let's say whenever you go to a website, you click on remember me, correct? So when you create a JavaScript object, JavaScript code, as soon as the program execution is over, we'll lose our data, correct, about the user. So to do that, we want to store the data of our user, correct? So for the better ease of access for the user, so we use cookies. So cookies are data stored in the small text files onto your computer, correct? So if you observe, whenever you clear your temporary files onto your computer, after clearing your temporary files, you won't be able to use autocompletes on various websites. Why? Because we by mistake we sometimes delete some cookies onto our computer. So it is also very necessary to delete them, because it won't occupy too much space, but if you are if there is multiple cookies stored in your computer, it might be the issue. So when a web server has sent a web page to a browser, the connection is shut down and the server forgets everything about the user, correct? So we don't want that. We want that we remember the stuff about the user to get the better access for the user. So cookies were invented to solve the problem how to remember information about the user. So when the user visits a web page, his or her name or email ID or let's say password can be stored in a cookie. Next time user visits the page, the cookie remembers the user's name or the values, correct? So how you can create this cookie? So you just can create an object. You can use the object document and dot cookie, and then you can set the value of it, correct? So this is it for this video. I hope you get something new, understood something new. So in the next video, in the final video, we are going to create a whole website from the scratch, and we'll use HTML, CSS, and we'll also use some framework to create a beautiful website. And we'll also see form validations there, how you can use JavaScript for form validations, correct? So yeah, I'll see you in the next video.